This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight we're taking your calls and questions all about injuries. That's everything from car accidents, 18-wheeler accidents, motorcycle accidents, to things like nursing home negligence, but also things like if you got hurt on the job. Call in, ask your questions. You may be thinking that the insurance company would take good care of you. Do you trust talking to the insurance company, even your own insurance company? Or should you talk to a lawyer first? The 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. We also invite you to send in your email questions. You can email a question anytime, any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we pull out some of your email questions, and we will have some of your email questions tonight. Getting us started tonight, Will League is here from Timberlake and League. Good to have you here.
All right, even though we're not in school, happy fall break to you.
Happy fall break.
Tomorrow's Columbus Indigenous Day,
Yep.
so we got a lot of
Courthouse
things going on.
closed, yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, so, we're talking all about injuries, and right off the top, we're seeing an uptick in nursing home abuse cases.
Really?
And, you've seen in the news where a lot of the caregivers and nurses are on strike.
Yeah.
And part of that is to respect your nurses and your medical personnel, and you've seen in the last decade a lot more disrespect towards everyone there in the healthcare profession. It's a difficult job, and on where we see it in the nursing home abuse cases are just poor staffing, not enough staff. So it's even impossible for those staff members to care for that many people or that many patients. And you have a lot of family members that are demanding high care, which they are paying for. And so the delta is, there's a strike going on, or they're contemplating a strike. There's no respect in the healthcare. A lot of people are angry, and so it's with the staffing makes it almost impossible for them to perform the jobs they're going to do. Families are upset, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And so.
And tough jobs to do.
Tough jobs to do. So getting more people in there to take care of your loved ones, that's the key. And those nursing home abuse negligent cases that we handle all the time are usually from poor staffing. And so it's something to think about moving forward.
If you're dealing with that, call in and let us know. You don't have to, don't tell us the name of the place, but tell us what's going on with your loved one, and let's see if we can point you in the right direction. We always like to start off the show with a You Make the Law Call video. We pull a video from YouTube. This is real video of a real accident taking place. We're talking all about injuries today. So this is not here local, and nobody is severely injured, but you see this all the time. Traffic is moving.
Right.
Somebody, now watch this car who caused the accident turn around and go the other direction. And we'll play it again. If something like this happens and the person that caused the accident disappears, okay,
right.
What does that do for your
Everything's
case?
looking good. The car, pulls over into their lane. The driver on the right clearly has had the established lane. Looked pretty intentional or negligent. Went over on him. Now fleeing the scene. It's sheer negligence right now. Fleeing the scene, you can, that's going to get you even more trouble. Yeah. That's not only a crime. You put somebody in a position of peril, failed to help them, and now you're leaving the scene. So you can be charged for that. It's not, it's not good for your insurance carrier. Oftentimes that we'll have car wreck cases, 18-wheeler wreck cases, either they know they hit somebody, or in a lot of times the 18-wheelers, they can come over on someone and not know. And we've had them run people off the road, things like that. We'll have to go into the Qualcomm system through the 18-wheelers and to find out exactly where that truck was, so there's a way to track that, through satellite data. And in this particular case, the driver, failed to yield a right-of-way. Clearly came in their lane, but then, fled the scene, making it even more difficult for himself. And, sadly, you got people who just don't care anymore. And so I hope this driver was caught. And
because I think they probably had the number. They probably had his tag number from that. They were probably able to find him.
Right.
If you didn't have video, what do? If you're the driver of the other car that you've suffered this injury, and the driver that caused it is gone, what do?
Happens all the time. We have people that run, and if they're not caught, then it's on you and your insurance carrier.
Okay.
So oftentimes, without a video, you don't have a license plate. There's no other witnesses, but you can go to your own carrier, and you'll go to your carrier and make what's called, for bodily injury, an underinsured motorist claim. Now, some of the cheapest insurance you can get, and when you go into, I won't name any insurance companies, but they'll say, hey, let's just pay for what you need. And they'll give you just liability, and that's what the law requires. However, if the scenario just happened and there's a phantom motorist that leaves the scene, you're out of luck. You can only go to your carrier if you have underinsured motorist coverage to pay for any medical bills, injuries you may have. Now, you may have comprehensive or collision to pay for your vehicle, but make sure that you have all the coverages. And these gimmicks of get what you need and we're only going to do this, it's not helping you in the long run, because if you have an uninsured driver or someone who flees the scene, there's nothing you can do. So don't sign that waiver when your insurance agent asks you to do that. And we see it all the time, Sharon.
Yeah.
They'll come in, what can I do? And they don't know they even signed the waiver. And they'll say, hey, let's save a few bucks. And they're insuring you for an unknown risk, and they don't want to do that. And that's why they push those rejections. So be careful.
And I know we've got laws that everybody's supposed to be having insurance that's on the road, but
right.
you guys throw out numbers sometimes that it surprises me what percentage of people on the road
Right.
still don't have insurance, or they get it just long enough to get their tag renewed or whatever,
Right.
and then they drop it again.
In some of those cases, yeah, we could get a verdict against this person, but that won't buy coffee. If it's just negligence, let's say the person made a mistake, and you get a verdict against them. Oftentimes they don't have assets to pay that verdict. And if they don't, then there's nothing to do if you do not have underinsured motorist coverage. If you have that, then you're okay. But if you don't, you can still get a verdict, but will it buy coffee?
Yeah.
You
Let's
know?
talk a little bit about medical malpractice cases. So you hear about these all the time, and you guys do medical malpractice
We do.
cases, but it's a specialty. And I think a lot of people think that if they go to the doctor and they don't get well, okay, I've got a medical malpractice case.
Right.
What do you really need to have a case like that?
Anything in the medical arena. We touched briefly on nursing home abuse because we're seeing a lot of that. More older Americans are going for skilled nursing care and things like that. We'll often have calls where people say, look, I had this surgery. It didn't turn out exactly like I wanted. Do I have a medical malpractice case? Well, the question is, number one, was there a breach of the standard of care of a similarly situated physician? And that used to be where, let's say you had a country doctor and you had a city doctor. City doctor had access to more materials,
Yeah,
things like
bells and
that. So there was
whistles
a
and
higher standard.
Okay.
But now with the internet, with all the information, it's pretty much a level playing field. So in a doctor in that similar situation breached the standard of care for that type of procedure, and that was approximate cause of injury or damage, stemming from that particular procedure. So usually it's not malpractice. However, where they have, where you sign all those waivers for common complications, blood loss, infection, things like that, common complication. That's
Okay.
a defense to medical malpractice cases.
Okay.
Okay? And that's one side of it. We're looking at a lot of products cases like, the CPAP machines with sleep apnea.
Yeah.
The material in between the mask, will disintegrate, go into the lungs, and then form cancer.
Oh, gee.
And so we're looking at a lot of those cases.
Okay.
Those are in multi-district litigation, and so, that's another medical malpractice, but within the product's liability realm.
Gotcha.
And so, different standards, but
Yeah.
still in the medical realm.
Call in your questions to 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. Talk a little bit about, everywhere you go, if you're traveling this summer or this fall, you're going to see in every city there are big billboards for volume attorney situations. And it's
Right.
kind of changed things for the legal practice. You may want to think about, is that somebody you want to hire?
We tell people, do your homework. Oftentimes go local to where they know the system, in their particular backyard. There's a mixed bag. You should be able to advertise. However, we're seeing a lot of the high volume, practitioners, and with the high, heavy, intense advertising, it's really cheapening lawyers' names as a whole. Some of the old guard was just felt it was abhorrent to advertise like they are now, and with good reason. The legal practice has fallen in the eyes of just the everyday citizen and the juror. And there's time we want to try and bring back legitimacy to this area of law and most laws, because let's face it, you don't like a lawyer till you need one. And so with all this heavy advertising, it just puts a bad taste in the juror's mouth. And what we've seen is you got a legitimate case, and then the average juror comes in, I've seen this clown show on TV, all the commercials in it. it makes it difficult for the legitimate claimant to come in there and make a reasonable claim based on the law. And the more and more you see the cheapening of our profession, it lowers the bar for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's something that it's concerning. It sure is.
We've got callers waiting. We've got Willie on the line with a question from Belmina. Hi, Willie. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight? Hi.
Hey, Willie.
My question is, if somebody don't have no insurance, they hit you, you get hurt like that, you can't sue nobody?
Well, you can. Let me ask you this. Did you have full coverage on your car?
Right.
Okay.
I got full coverage.
Okay, so you got full coverage, then you got liability in case you hit somebody, comprehensive or collision to fix somebody's car or fix your own, and then you've got what's called underinsured motorist coverage to if you are injured by an uninsured motorist or they flee the scene, then you can make a claim against that person, but your own insurance company steps into the shoes of that particular defendant. So therefore, even though you're making a claim against this person who hit you, your insurance company will come in and pay and make that claim. So yes, you can make a claim or sue the defendant driver. You have to put your own carrier on notice, and then they jump on their team and defend the case as if they were never your insurance company. So it's kind of a weird situation, but it protects you for a situation just like this. Let's say you didn't have insurance coverage. You could still maintain an action or sue. And then if you recovered a verdict, then the question is, can you recover that particular verdict? But the answer to your question is, yes, you can.
Let's talk a little bit about bus wrecks, and then we're going to take a break shortly. Bus wrecks. You guys have covered a number of these in the past. Can be really dangerous. Nobody's wearing seatbelts, and something terrible happens.
You know, school's back in session. We got field trips.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other. Handled a lot of the Lee High School bus wreck case. If anybody remembers that from way back when, where they were going to Atlanta. Another case where they were going to Atlanta. Poor kids on a mission trip.
Oh, yeah.
Bus, you know, and then the Tunica trip. And so
Yeah.
we handled a lot of those mass bus wreck cases. And you're right. They're not wearing seatbelts. They're high speeds. They go off the road. Horrific injuries. And you know, the last case we had where, you know, we've had the bus driver fall asleep or speeding in an ice storm.
Gee.
Or not properly trained or not having a CDL. And so, you know, and accidents happen, I get that. But when you're a licensed carrier, you have to make sure you do your pre-trip inspection, that vehicle is ready for the road, that you've done all those things. You can't, you know, cut corners. Don't cut corners with my child. I'm sure anybody out there wouldn't want you to cut corners with them. And when we see these kind of cases, oftentimes the pre-trip inspection was not done, the vehicle was not safe, and therefore something awful happened, and we've seen it too many times.
Yeah.
And with more and more kids, you know, more and more field trips, you know, here we are. You know?
We're going to take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions all about injuries tonight. Stay with us.
Watching WAAY 31 Law Call, where lawyers come to help. Your rights, your calls, live. Hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. With the personal injury attorneys of one of the Valley's most respected law firms, Timberlake and League. Featuring the knowledge of managing partner Michael Timberlake, with millions of dollars awarded to his clients. And the experience of attorney Will League, a strong courtroom fighter known for his commitment to winning. And the fellow partners of Timberlake and League Heath Brooks and William Meservey. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight we're taking your calls and questions all about injuries, and Will League is with us tonight from Timberlake and League answering those questions. Patricia is on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Patricia. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
I have a son that broke his ankle at his own home. Went to the hospital. They did surgery, kept him several days, about 5 or 6 after the surgery, sent him to a rehab center.
Okay.
He stayed about 3 weeks in the rehab center, and they sent him home. After he'd been home for about a week or maybe a week to 5 to 7 days, he got sick. He couldn't breathe. He went to the hospital. He had severe blood clots in his lungs. One of them was 18 inches long. The other one was 13 inches long.
Oh, my goodness.
He has pictures of them. The problem was when he was he has AFib. He's been on the medication for AFib for quite a while. When he was in the hospital, apparently he had it. When he went to rehab, the apparently somehow or another he didn't get the correct meds that he took. He was not getting the blood thinners, and that's when he contracted the blood clots.
Wow.
Patricia, let me ask you this. Now, 3 weeks seems like a long time for a fractured ankle. Was it a specifically complex fracture? What was going on?
He crushed his ankle. He had to have surgery, pins and plates put in his ankle, and then they sent him to rehab. He is a single person, lives by himself, didn't have anyone, so rehab was his only option to go.
Okay. All right, so, you know, anytime you have a surgery, they put in the pins and things like that, common complication is blood clots. And so oftentimes if you have surgery, they don't want you to immobilize, if you get on planes, this, that, and the other, but if he's already on blood thinners, the anticoagulant, and they failed to provide him that could be an issue. So for example, in this case, he's in the hospital and they failed to give him his meds, and those are required, those blood thinners, to make sure he does not develop blood clots. And it's even more important during this time after a procedure, and it makes it even more of an issue. Now, it's almost like, could there be malpractice? It sounds like if the doctor ordered blood thinners and the staff failed to provide those, and he was not on his those particular medications to keep that from happening, a doctor testifies that's a breach of the standard of care, and that was the proximate cause of those blood clots. Then you've got, you know, in any lawsuit, it's kind of like baking a cake, Sharon. You have to have sugar, milk, eggs, all that stuff.
Okay.
So you have duty. You have breach of that duty by they failed to provide the particular medication. It was a causation of those blood clots. And the next question is, what's the damage? What extra harm did your son incur as a result of these blood clots? If he perished, then it's a wrongful death claim, unfortunately. If he had to have more hospital stay and incurred more medical bills, and she mentioned he lived alone, so he can't stay by himself. So did he have to go into hospital and incur more, if he didn't have health insurance, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're in the hospital for a month. And so the damages is the question mark as to what extra harm did it cause your son from the failure to provide him those medications. And lastly, is there any long-term effects? Will the doctor testify, or will they show that those particular blood clots make him now more susceptible? Or do they damage his heart or his vascular system, overall by having those blockages for so long? And those are questions for experts, and medical malpractice cases usually are surrounded by expert testimonies. We'll have to ask all those questions to the experts, get your son's medical records, and then go from there.
Get the medical records and go see a lawyer.
Yeah, and
go see somebody.
And remember, there's a 2-year statute of limitations.
Okay.
Depending on how old this young man is, it could be 2 years after the 19th birthday.
Okay.
But we don't know the age.
Okay. Good luck with it, Patricia. We've got Greg on the line with a question from Decatur. Hi, Greg. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I had a motorcycle wreck September 29th of last year.
Oh, gee.
It destroyed my right ankle and my left wrist. And it gave me affective aphasia. I spent 121 days in the hospital. When I left the hospital, they sent me to a rehab therapy hospice nursing home. And they sent me with, and it gave me pills.
Okay.
They gave me instructions, which I gave them. They were supposed to change my dressing twice a day and give me those pills.
Okay.
They never gave me the pills. They never changed the dressing. And finally, it got ugly. I mean, red, yellow, black, green. And they come in there and finally, and they said they couldn't change it. They didn't know how. I said, well, I called the hospital and tell them, they'll tell you what to do. And they said, send me back right away. And it was horrible under there.
How long were you there, Greg? Sorry to interrupt you. How long were you there?
6 days, and they never gave me the medicine or changed my bandage. And I got pictures, and it's horrible looking when because they did take me back, and the ambulance driver said they could smell it, and I couldn't because I was nose blind to it. However,
yeah, right.
You're lucky to be alive.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, if you develop an infection, remember, infection is a common complication. However, when you're in a place 6 days, you had a horrible accident, your dressing needs to be changed. Was the doctor's orders to change those every day, every 8 hours? What were the doctor's orders? If they failed to do that, I believe that would be a breach of the applicable standard of care. And then the question is, did that breach, was that the proximate cause of that infection? And infections can be serious. You can develop sepsis, infection of the blood, and here you go. Next thing you know, you've perished. And so it may be a claim, depending on what the records say, if that failure to change that wound was a breach of the standard of care. So like the last caller, I recommend getting your medical records and going to see a lawyer who specializes in medical malpractice cases.
How do you get the records?
It's difficult sometimes. Sometimes the patient's got to go get them. Sometimes we can order them through a portal. Sometimes we have to order them the old-fashioned way, and they get more and more expensive as we go.
Yeah.
And so, but that you are entitled, you're legally entitled to your own medical record under the Patient's Bill of Rights.
Okay. Hunting season, we're right at hunting season. Do you see an uptick in cases around this
accidental
time?
shootings. We had a case we settled for multi-million-dollars a few months ago. Guy was out and there was something, in his way, gets out to try and move it early morning.
Yeah.
Other car comes, didn't see the tree that was down the road, and the guy was just trying to go hunting. He had camouflage on, have some orange on, use common sense, and we see an uptick in people falling out of tree stands, not loading your gun, keep your gun unloaded while you put it in your car, all the simple stuff, but one mistake and it's a problem.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll be right back answering more of your questions all about injuries tonight. Stay with us. If you haven't gotten your question answered tonight, here's how to reach Will League with Timberlake and League in Huntsville. They are personal injury attorneys, so that's everything from car crashes to medical malpractice. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com, and if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And family law attorney Sharon Dovey at 256-539-7337. Sharon Family Law. .com, child custody, divorce. Sharon does it all.
Thank you, sir. You talk to lawyers about news. You're looking at war starting over in the Middle East, and you're talking about adverse possession.
You know what? How does that apply? So they say, as a Christian, I'm with the Jewish. As a lawyer, I'm with Palestine. So if somebody leaves their land for hundreds of years and someone else comes and takes up that land for 100 or so years, adverse possession says it's their land, right?
See? Lawyers.
Under the law, it's Palestinian land. So that's where we are. But tomorrow is what day?
Yeah, Columbus Day, or Indigenous Peoples Day.
Knoxville, what year did Columbus discover America?
1492.
1492, that's right.
Kids are out of school tomorrow.
All right.
Thanks for all your calls and questions. See you next week.